Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment, where it is now official. Former Tennessee Titans head coach and former New England Patriot linebacker and defensive end Mike Vrabel will be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. Again, it became official this Sunday morning here on Wild Card Weekend, but we were already getting strong rumblings about this Thursday and Friday. Yesterday, it sounded like basically he was locked in. They had him locked in. The contract negotiations were going down, and now it is official. We still don't yet have terms on how long the deal is. I don't really care. They just had Gerard Mayo for 1 year. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be 4 years, 5 years, and however much money it's out of Kraft's pocket, it doesn't count against the salary cap. Who cares? It's kind of interesting to know, oh, they gave him a 4-year deal, 5-year deal, 6-year deal. But, I mean, it really doesn't matter. If he doesn't perform, he's gone, right? That's really what matters when it comes to these NFL head coaches. So, what are my thoughts on this? Now, I don't really have to tell Patriots fans too much because they're very familiar with Mike Vrabel as a player. But I do want to tell you some things, though, because I don't know how familiar you are with him as a coach. And I'm sure you're definitely also familiar with him as a personality, right? As his personality, and even as he's gotten older, I mean, it's changed. He's not the same as he was when he was in his, late 20s, early 30s, right? Obviously, he's evolved from that point to where now he's, late 40s, and he's been a head coach. He's been, an assistant coach. So he's obviously matured and changed a bit. But I do want to relay what exactly we experienced, because I'm a Titans fan, what we experienced in Tennessee and what I'm expecting from him in New England, because I want Patriots fans to have just a little bit more information in terms of what exactly happened in Tennessee, what led to the downfall, what might happen with you guys, and just really get into that. So Mike Vrabel, who won Coach of the Year for us in 2021, but let's go back to when we hired him. So we hired him in 2018. And we hired him off the heels of what was a playoff team. It was a 9-7 playoff team. The team went 9-7 in 2017 and won a playoff game. Unlikely playoff game at Arrowhead. And this was the Marcus Mariota game where he threw a touchdown to himself, comeback victory against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then next round was not able to get it done in the divisional round. No one was really surprised by that. We were just happy to be there and happy to get the win. However, the sentiment was that we had peaked with Mike Mularkey, who was our head coach at the time, that we didn't really see a path forward towards growth. Now, this was a little controversial within Tennessee Titans fan base. People forget about this, but it was, because that was a successful season for us. For us, it wasn't a win improvement because we had went 9-7 the previous year, but for us to go to the playoffs and then for us to win a playoff game. And then not only that, Mariota was very clutch in that playoff game, and he was clutch the week before in the Week 17 game to clinch the playoff berth. Right, so people thought that we were actually in the upward trend and that we shouldn't fire Mike Mularkey. But one of the reasons why people were always kind of mediocre, or let's say mid, on Mularkey, and the sentiment was mid around him, was because he was a guy that was, he was an interim coach for us in 2015. He did fine. We ended up keeping him in what felt like a complacent move. He ended up doing better than we thought he would. But people always felt there was a cap to him, right? We saw him as a head coach for the Buffalo Bills. We saw him as a head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he did not have success. So controversially, they decided to move on. And also, they wanted him to fire his offensive coordinator, and he refused to do so. So ultimately, they decided to move on, and then they went out and sought a new head coach and ultimately got Mike Vrabel, who at the time was offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. So he comes into Tennessee. His first year at Tennessee, we make the playoffs yet again. So, actually, no, sorry. We do not make the playoffs the first year with Mike Vrabel. First year, we missed the playoffs closely. We could have won the final game, but we go 9-7 yet again. Missed the playoffs this time, but you saw signs of growth. Mariota had played better statistically, but we still missed the playoffs in 2018, and he was injured for that final game. Some people felt like he could have played through it. He didn't, whatever. We go into 2019. Mariota struggles to start that year. We start out 2-4. In comes Ryan Tannehill. He takes over the team. He now goes 7-2 down the stretch. We finished that season 9-7. We win 2 playoff games, one of which you guys should remember because the first of which was against the New England Patriots. We beat them in the wild card round. The last game Tom Brady ever played in a New England Patriots uniform. We then go to Baltimore, beat the Baltimore Ravens, and then lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. So this was what Mike Vrabel, this was where, okay, this is the essential, this is why we brought this guy in. Now you see us elevated. Now we're getting strong quarterback play out of Tannehill. Mariota just ended up not being it for us. But now we're getting what we need to see. Tannehill's playing great. Henry's playing great. We go 9-7 that year. Next year, we start out strong. End up going 11-5. Lose, unfortunately, to the Ravens in the wild card. But it was a very strong 11-5 year. Could have easily been 12-4 if a couple things bounce our way. Maybe even 13-3 if a couple more things bounce our way. But it was a strong year. Next year, our best year under Mike Vrabel. Derrick Henry only plays either 8 or 9 games, gets injured, and we still keep winning games. Number 1 seed, 12-5, coach of the year. With Derrick Henry missing half the year, Tannehill plays great. Everything's looking great. And then Tannehill unfortunately chokes in the divisional round against the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was a disaster. But we still feel good about this team. We still feel strong. Hey, let's get back healthy 2022. Let's get Henry back. Let's get a couple more pieces. We had Julio for 2021, and we felt like he was kind of on the decline, but so we might have to do some things. But, we still feel good heading into 2022. Now, this is where things started to go wrong. As we trade, we get into unfortunate contract negotiations with A.J. Brown, can't really come to a number, and we trade for him. A move that Vrabel was not in support of. I will give Vrabel credit for that. We trade A.J. Brown, we draft Treylon Burks, one of the worst deals in NFL history. Awful. To get Treylon Burks, essentially, back for A.J. Brown, awful. I mean, just awful. We start that year 7-3. Okay, capped off by a win by the Green Bay Packers, where his offensive coordinator gets drunk on the plane, gets a DUI heading back home. And then everything goes to hell. We lose 7 straight games in 2022 to end the year. Okay? 7 straight games to end the year. In the midst of which we fire our general manager who traded away A.J. Brown. So up to this point, I'm not blaming Vrabel too much. Now, a 7-game win streak, it is much, though, because you shouldn't, to me, if you're a good head coach, you should never have a 7-game losing streak. You should win 1 out of 7. And I don't care where in the schedule, if it's the beginning, the middle, or the end. You should never really lose 7 straight games, no matter how bad your team is. You should find a win out of 7. All right, so this is where things started to go bad. Now, this is when Tannehill was still relatively healthy. He might have missed 1 game during this period, but he was still healthy. Malik Willis, I think he came in for one of those games, probably against Kansas City, maybe. In fact, yeah, he did, but he lost that one. But we still felt fine, but now we're in cap hell because we're now coming off of that playoff period. We had guys like the later end of Jarrell Casey. We had now Kevin Byard, who's kind of aging now. Derrick Henry kind of aging now. And there's some other guys as well. And now our cap is looking kind of like a mess. Taylor Lewan was still there. Was he still there at that point? Or yeah, he was at that point. And things were starting to look a little bit shaky in terms of our cap and everything like that. And you start to go, uh-oh, things are not looking great. The offseason of 2023, so we have to find a new GM. We hire a new GM in Rand Carthon. And then apparently this new GM and Vrabel, they didn't really coexist as we thought that they would. We head into the next year. We still decide to stick with Tannehill. We draft Will Levis in the second round for whatever reason. I don't really know why. Other than we did need a quarterback of the future because Tannehill was showing signs of regression. I agree with that. But I just wasn't a fan of Will Levis. And apparently, Mike Vrabel was down for this, and he believed in Will Levis. This is what's been reported. So, ultimately, Tannehill starts the year. This is what Vrabel wanted, by the way. Vrabel wanted to still roll with Tannehill. This is on record that Vrabel wanted Tannehill to still be the starter. He still believed in Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's awful. To start the year, he's awful. Then he gets hurt, and then now it's time to do Malik Willis and Will Levis going back and forth for a bit, and it's pretty bad. And then we go 6-11, and then ultimately, we just heard more and more rumblings about Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel not seeing eye to eye. Apparently, Mike Vrabel thought that Rand Carthon wasn't quite ready to be a GM. We've heard reports that Rand Carthon was maybe not as hard worker as some of the other people on the front office staff. We've heard reports that he left Will Levis's pro day early, so there was some rift there. And then ultimately, the owner just kind of had to pick a side, and then she chose the GM. And then Vrabel wanted a little bit more control over the roster and still be able to make a little bit more roster decisions, whereas she wanted the GM to make decisions. So ultimately, we let Mike Vrabel go. So my stance on this was always, I think Vrabel's a good coach. All right, I've never said that he wasn't. The problem was, at that point, again, we had lost 7 straight games to end 2022, and then we had lost, and then we went 6-11. So over that period of time, we were 6-18. I don't love 6-18. So I said, look, if you're gonna fire him and you can get someone better, fine, right? Because it seems like if they're not gonna get along, and also this is the big thing when it comes to the Patriots. If he is not going to be able to either hire the right people or help at least in terms of the offensive direction, that's a big problem for me. Our offense under him was very basic. Now, it worked, but it worked largely because we had a guy named Derrick Henry, a future Hall of Famer who, yes, you can give the ball to 25 to 30 times a game, and if he's able to get a couple holes, he'll lead you to victory. That formula only works for about 4 teams in the league. 4, 5, maybe 6 teams in the league. Oh, definitely only 2 right now where you can have one bell cow, either him or Saquon. Everyone else, they have a backup running back who's getting considerable carries. And even Derrick Henry now, Justice Hill gets carries. So, yeah, I mean, that time of, it's kind of over. But for us, yeah, Derrick Henry could run for 2,000 yards. Yeah, he could lead us. And it was a very much 2 tight end set. Very much so run the football tough. And it worked for us. But it was a little outdated. We didn't seek to throw the ball that often. It was a lot of play action. When it worked well. In 2020, it worked fantastic. But it just became stale, and I became very concerned with that. And then as Henry started, and our offensive line started to show more issues, the offense just became just awful. And I have concerns about that as it pertains to the Patriots, because right now how the Patriots are developed, or at least how their lineup is, you have this young quarterback in Drake May. Your wide receivers right now are not good. I mean, Jalen Polk, look, this is a terrible rookie year for Jalen Polk. I mean, I don't know how else you can describe it. I know he's only a second-round pick, but I mean, the guy had, he was over 400 snaps, and he had 82 yards. That's awful. That's terrible. That's ridiculous. He had 12 catches over 400 snaps. That's awful. Kayshon Boutte is showing a little bit more potential. That's good. And then DeMar Douglas is fine. But now, luckily, you're in position this year to draft, in my opinion, the number 1 wide receiver off the board in Tenure McMillan, who, in my opinion, is actually a better receiver than Travis Hunter is a wide receiver, in my opinion. At least in college. I'd have to project that in the NFL, but I think Travis Hunter's going to play corner anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But that would be a good pick, by the way, for sure. Or you guys can go offensive lineman again, although I think McMillan, in my opinion, is better than the offensive lineman, unless if you just love one of the tackles in Kelvin Banks or what's the guy's, or Will Campbell, which I guess you could, and Will Campbell might end up being more of a guard in the NFL, by the way. I don't know if you want to take a guard that high at number 4. So I worry that a team that desperately needs help offensively, I don't know if he's bringing that. But he also could be bringing back Josh McDaniels. So how about that? A 3rd stint for Josh McDaniels in New England. No matter what Josh Daniels tries to do, New England pulls him back in, right? So that could be something that we see there. And I guess Patriots fans, I guess you would like that, right? I mean, you've had success with him. Now it's been with Brady, okay, mostly. Except for, I guess you can count the Mac Jones rookie year when he made the playoffs. I guess that was somewhat of a success. But I don't know. Maybe you guys are kind of over that too at this point. So I don't know. What this solves to me is he's obviously a better coach than Gerard Mayo. And Gerard Mayo didn't get a fair shake, in my opinion. It was only 1 year, and it wasn't great. But again, the offense is still so awful. It's awful. I don't know how much you're supposed to do. I mean, you drafted your quarterback, and then Jalen Polk, this so far has been a bust. So you have to keep drafting more wide receivers on offensive linemen, and I think even a tight end now, because Hunter Henry, he's nearing done. I mean, he's basically done now. He had a fine year statistically, but with the injuries he's had, and he's getting up there in age, I mean, you need another tight end soon. So, and then the running back situation, I mean, Ramondre Stevenson is fine, but I mean, are we going to just keep relying on Ramondre Stevenson? It's just it's pretty bad. I mean, the Patriots offense is pretty awful. And I'm saying as a Titans fan, look, I'm not hating. I'm a Titans fan. I get it. We're awful too. I'm right there with you, dog. And honestly, you guys' offense is worse. I mean, I'm just, at least on paper, you guys have a better quarterback. But I like our wide receivers more than y'all. At least we have Calvin Ridley. And then for a running back, at least we have Tony Pollard. So I actually like our offense better than you guys, if I'm being honest with you. So it's still a long road here, but he's going to instill a better locker room culture. He's going to instill Patriots culture. What you really have to see is, what are they going to do with this cap space? Over $130 million in cap space you can spend. Now, with that said, to me, this is not a strong enough free agency class for you to fix it in one free agency. Because, I mean, look at it. If you look at the top 10 free agents, okay, top 10. So this is just NFLTradeRumors.co. I like this website. It's pretty good. So they have T. Higgins, number 1. Troy Smith, the guard from Kansas City, number 2. Drew Dahlman, the center from the Falcons, number 3. Chris Godwin, number 4. Sam Darnold, number 5. Russ Wilson, number 6. Ronnie Stanley, number 7. Hollywood Brown, number 8. Amari Cooper, number 9. Stephon Diggs, number 10. Okay. Of the 10 names I just listed, Hollywood Brown, Amari Cooper, but Hollywood Brown for sure might just never be healthy again. And then Sam Darnold might just be a pumpkin at this point. We don't know. And then Russ Wilson had a fine year, but he's not great. And these are the top 10. And then you move after that. I mean, Chris Godwin's been hurt this year. So of the only free agents that are absolute, if you sign them, I'm 100% sure they're going to do well for you, is T. Higgins, Trey Smith, Drew Dahlman, and Ronnie Stanley. Everyone else, I have no idea. If you get Stephon Diggs, I don't know what he's going to do for you. I have no idea. He got hurt this year, and he's going to be a year older. So I wouldn't even go in free agency and just spend. Some other names, Khalil Mack, he's 33. Garrett Bowles, he's 32. Jared Hopkins, he's 32. Tyrell Smith, he's 33. DJ Reed is a decent one. I like that. But the free agents, there's not many free agents I'm in love with here. I like Buda Baker. There are some names here, but there's not enough names here for you guys to fix everything. There's just not. Just hope you get one of them. Like, if you guys get either T. Higgins or Trey Smith, great. Okay, good free agency. If you can get T. Smith and Ronnie Stanley, fantastic. Okay, you won free agency. You got to do it through the draft, where the Patriots have been struggling. Again, Jalen Polk struggled. Caden Wallace, Lady Robinson struggled to me this year. Joe Milton actually played well in the last game of the year, but he's not starting as a backup. Maybe he traded for something. Luckily now Gonzalez is back from his injury last year. He's good. Keanu White showing you a little bit more things from last year. But what are we getting out of Jake Andrews last year? Why did we take Chad Ryland? City Soul is not showing us much from last year's draft either. So we got to draft better in New England. If that's not fixed, Vrabel can help you. He'll help you be a 6-7 win team again. But if you guys want to be a playoff team, a contending team, there's still a lot of work to be done here. I mean, Vrabel for us, he took us from being a 9-7 playoff team to being an 11-12 Super Bowl-ish contending team. That's what he took us to. And then we bottomed out, and then we became a mediocre team again. Some of that was on the GM. But guess what? Right now, in my opinion, you guys don't have a good GM. Now, Elliott Wolf, it was only his first year. This wasn't a good draft for him. So I need to see more. But I'm sure you guys are happy to have Vrabel back. But just be a little bit careful before you go a little bit too crazy with excitement here. I think it's better than Gerard Mayo. but I'm not sure if it's going to be a total home run yet. I have to see better personnel decisions. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Mike Vrabel being the next head coach for the New England Patriots. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. Until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. See you all later.